with the book of Isaiah, the 19th chapter, verse 25. Compare it with 1925. When I'm talking about the other nations, they do have mighty ones ruling over them. But the goal is, being that the earth is the Father's footstool, everybody is supposed to come under one banner. Okay, and this is the reason why the Father gave us laws, statutes, commandments. We're supposed to show forth the esteem of the Father, and everybody is supposed to be following Torah. Everybody, all right? Those are disagreeable beings. 1925. In comparison, it says, I'm going to I'm going to start at verse 21. And Yahuah shall be known to Egypt, and the Egyptians shall know Yahuah in that day, and shall do sacrifices and oblation. Yea, they shall vow a vow unto Yahuah and perform it. Again, and perform it, which is the action word, so we have to do it. They have to do it. And Yahuah shall smite Egypt, he shall smite and heal it. And they shall return even to Yahuah, and he shall entreat of them, and shall heal them. In that day there shall be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria. And the Assyrians shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptians into Assyria. And the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. Verse 24. In that day shall Israel be as the third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessing into the midst of the land, whom Yahuah of hosts shall bless, O Baruch, saying, Blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, my inheritance. What I wanted to capitalize on is, in Israel, my inheritance. And if you read the British Greek Septuagint, verse 25, and we do that a little bit later, verse 25 is actually read a little bit different. It's not even read that way. This is all scrambled up. But I just wanted to bring out the point that the Father, or the Mashiyach's inheritance is Israel. We are associated with the land, and we do have an inheritance. Just like it talks about Kamesh, they got their inheritance, and they have their mighty one, and we have our mighty one. We're going to finish this up, Mishpachah, Judges the 11th chapter, because I'm going to start asking some questions. Questions. Verse 27. No, actually, I'm pretty much finished with that. All right. So what I wanted to show Mishpachah is that the plain of Moab was called Aravoth Moab. That's going to be very, very important. The plain of Moab, I'm going to write it down, because if you don't understand this part here, you're going to miss everything. The plain of Moab is actually called Aravoth Moab. All right? We're going to prove that in Scripture. The plain of Moab was called Aravoth Moab. The area had been promised to our brethren Reuben on condition that they assist the rest of the tribes conquering the west of the Jordan, which is the promised land Canaan. I have in quotations, please understand, Reuben did not. Reuben did not take full possession of this land until the death of Moses, and the new leader Joshua took the leadership position. Well, point number 2, the plains of Moab formerly belonged to Moab. However, Sihon, like we had talked about earlier, Sihon, king of the Amorites, took the property from Moab, pushing them below the Arnon River. Now Yashra'al took the plains of Moab from Sihon. The plains of Moab was called Aravoth Moab. Anybody, do you see Aravoth Moab on your sheets? Okay, that's going to be very important. The plains of Moab was called Avaroth Moab in the book of Joshua, the 13th chapter. Joshua, the 13th chapter, verse 32. I'm going to read it here. Slow. Okay, Judges, the 13th chapter, verse.
Judges or Joshua?
Oh, excuse me, Joshua. The book of Joshua, the 13th chapter, 13:32. If we can get Moray, read that for us. 13:32.
Joshua 13:32. These are the countries which Moses did distribute for inheritance in the plains of Moab.
In the plains of Moab. All right? Right. Anybody know, based on the sheet that you have, all right? You have 4 sheets here. The plains of Moab. Is the plains of Moab the field of Moab, or is that further up near the Jordan?
Further up.
Jordan. Exactly. All right. So we're not talking about below the Arnon River. We're talking about above the Arnon River. And that was called Avaroth Moab. Read on, Lord, please.
On the other side of Jordan by Jericho, eastward.
Right. So what I wanted to do now, if you look up that word plains, the word plains is the Strong's number 6160. What word do you get?
Araba.
Right. So you have what Hebrew letter? The Aleph, is it?
It's the Ayin.
The Ayin.
The Resh.
The Resh.
The Bet.
The Bet.
And the Hay.
And the Hay. Some have it Avaroth, but we can also look at it as Araba. So you see why, I mean, obviously the Moab here. So the word plain is actually Araba. Some have it as Aravoth. So if we was reading this, these are the countries which Moses did distribute for an inheritance, and Aravoth, the plains of Moab on the other side by the by Jericho eastward. Now, if we can have more ready to go to Devarim 32:49. Devarim 32:49. Because we're going to find something very interesting. 32:49. Make sure that's the right one. Okay, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Deuteronomy 32:49. Get thee up into the mountains of Aram, unto Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab.
Right. So where are we at now?
Land of Moab.
Right. Are we below the Arnon River, or are we above the Arnon River? Above it. All right. And our key words here now is Mount Nebo. Mount Nebo is actually in Avaroth. It's not below the Arnon River. It's above the Arnon River. Now, Moray, you was at 32:49, right?
Yes.
Okay, read on, please, sir.
Which is in the land of Moab.
So, one more thing. So, the plains of Moab is also called the land of Moab. But it's all talking about one area. This is all one area, and this is all above. See if this is now above beyond the Arnon River. Make sure I got it correct here. Okay, read on.
That is over against Jericho. And behold, the land of Canaan, which I gave unto the children of Israel for a possession.
Right, so the land of Canaan is on the west side. of the joy, right? Okay, good. Hallelujah. We are doing good. We are doing good, 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 good. Now, this is where it got very, very interesting for me. You can go to the book of Ruth, the first chapter. The book of Ruth, the first chapter, verse 1. If we can have Ezekiel. Ruth, the first chapter. First chapter, verse 1. Ruth, the first chapter, verse 1.
Ruth 1:1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man, Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife Yahusha and his 2 sons.
Right. So it says the country of Moab. Where is this at? Looking at your maps. Huh? Below the Arnie.
Above.
Huh?
Above the Arnie.
No, it can't be.
If it was above, that would have been improvement.
Exactly. So the argument now is that if it's saying, watch again, now it came to pass in the days of the judges' rule that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab. He was not, I show it here. He didn't go to Apharoth. He went to the country of Moab. He went here, not here. Now watch where it gets even more interesting. Go to, Ezekiel, if you can do verse 2.
And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there.
All right, what I want us to capitalize here is the word country. The word country in verse 1 in chapter 1, verse 1. Chapter 1, verse 2, the word country. Now, Ezekiel, if you can do verse 6, please.
Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how that Yahuah had visited his people in giving them bread.
All right, so when you look up the word country in verse 1 and 1, 1 and 2, and 1 and 6, you get your Strong's number every single time, 7704. What is the name of that parcel of land called Moab? What name did you get there?
And here, plain close to Lane Mountain.
Right, the Hebrew word you get, do you have Sadeh? You can't hear? Oh,
I can't hear no answers.
Oh, you can't hear you can't hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't hear their answers.
Oh, okay.
The plain of Moab.
Right, exactly. So when it's talking about now the country of Moab, what we were sharing now is that the country of Moab is not the same as the plains of Moab. They're totally 2 separate words. So every time when you go to the book of Ruth, the first chapter, verse 1, Ruth, the first chapter, verse 2, Ruth, the first chapter, verse 6, it's saying now the country of Moab. We have, it's spelled S-A-D-E-H. We have Sadeh, Moab, and we have Avaroth, Moab. Avaroth, Moab is above the Arnon River, and we have Sadeh, Moab, below the Arnon River. That is going to be extremely important because it's telling us now that Ruth came from Sadeh, Moab, which is below the Arnon River and not above, which is now Avaroth, the plain of Moab. She didn't come from there. And so this is the reason why I say that Ruth was actually a Moabite, because she came from Sadeh, Moab, which is below the Arnon River, and not Avaroth, Moab, which is above the Arnon River. Two separate places. And the reason why that we see that Moab actually owns some property up there is because the Amorites now had, they had like extended their boundaries. And the reason why I believe that that parcel of land never really belonged to Moab, because the father said, listen, you know what? I'm going to give you the land below the Arnon River. And so if you, even if it's yours, you got to give it back. You know, that's not where I put you. And so placement is very, very important, because you never want to be anywhere where the father said that you're not supposed to be. You might find yourself in a world of trouble. So, my argument is this. My closing argument is that I believe that Ruth was a Moabite. Let's say that Ruth was an Israelite. How does Ruth, being an Israelite from the tribe of Reuben, take the blood or the genealogy of the Mashiyach when the man begets, identifying his pedigree of the child? You can look this up on your own, which is the Strong's number 3205. And the Strong's definition for begets means specifically to show lineage, the male's bloodline. And we know that when the male and female comes together again, it's actually they're sharing genetic material, but the bloodline is making a reference to the male. And I did forget one thing, Mr. Todd, I promise this is it. The book of Joshua, the 20th chapter, verses 1 through 2. If I can have Akoti Parad read that for me, please. 1 through 2, and if I can have Darnell to read verses 7 through 9. And we're going to close the shop with that.
Joshua 20, verse 1 and 2. And Yahuah also spake unto Joshua, saying, Speak unto the children of Yashra'al, saying, Appoint out for your cities of refuge.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let's put this here. Cities of refuge.
Whereof I spake unto you by the hand of Moshe. That's 1 and 2.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So 7 and 9. 7, 8, and 9.
And they appointed Kadesh and Galilee and Mount Nephtali and Shechem and Mount Ephraim and Karjabah, which is Hebron in the mountain of Judah, and on the other side of the Jordan.
The other side of the Jordan, which would be this side here now, because the cities that he just named, the 3 cities here now, there are some better maps here, all right, but you would have had it like this. It would look like this. These are your 3 cities of refuge on the west side. This is on the east side. Read on.
On the other side of the Jordan.
On the other side of the Jordan, so on the other side of the Jordan.
By Jericho eastward, their sign Ezra in the wilderness upon the plain out of the tribe of Reuben. And
the tribe of Reuben. So this right here would have been like the tribe of Reuben up in this area. But remember, at one point this was called the plains of Moab. In Hebrew it was Avaroth, Moab. Moab was never supposed to own this land. They were pushed back down to the border, which is the Arnon River. They were pushed back here. Israel took all of this land, okay, that belonged to Sihon. He was an Amorite. And so Israel took this land, and this land actually became the land of Reuben. They took it now from the Amorite. They didn't take it from Moab. Read on. If there's any more.
Ramoth in Gilead.
Ramoth in Gilead. Okay, this is Manasseh.
Out of the tribe of Gad. and Golan and Yashra'al out of the tribe of Manasseh.
Right, so actually this is Manasseh. This is Manasseh here. This is Reuben, and Gad would be, this is not the best map, but Gad would be like a little bit further down. That's all you have? Okay, so,
hold on, 9:2. These were the cities appointed for all the children of Israel and the strangers that sojourn among them, that whosoever killeth any person that unaware might flee and not die by the hand of the avenger of the blood until he stood before the congregation. That's 9.
Hallelujah. So, this rakat, that's my scriptural understanding of it. The King James Version, we went to Septuagint, we read the Targums, and we did a little bit of some maps here. That's the reason why I believe that Ruth was actually a Moabite. And again, if she was an Israelite, you know, we're not going to pull teeth over it. You know, if she was an Israelite, you know, the thing now is that it's still Obed, Boaz, Jesse, David. It's still the males of lineage. I mean, Tamar, Rachel, Leah, fine. Women are great. They're excellent. Okay, it takes that woman now to actually bring her genetics together to bring forth a child. So I don't want anybody to ever believe that I'm undermining or, you know, women aren't important. They are extremely, extremely, extremely important. And maybe later on, we can even go into some of the genetics to explain why women are so important. Like quickly, a couple of years ago when I started to look at the whole birthing process and what actually happens and how the baby's actually getting oxygen from the mother's navel, the umbilical cord, and the first thing that they usually want to do after the woman has given birth, they want to like cut the umbilical cord, and you're supposed to go now?
It's supposed to within 10 days it falls off by itself.
Right, and the whole thing now is because there was one sister, she had a lotus birth, and where the baby stays like attached to like the placenta, right? And they want to make sure, now the reason why they would do this is because they wanted to make sure that all of the stem cells, all of the memory, there's so much nutrition and valuable information because the woman is a receiver. And so now this material or this placenta that she's pushing out, this is supposed to just like fall off or fall off. So yeah, exactly. So they wanted to make sure that the baby got all of the right and all of the information. And so it's like you're a computer, all right? So all of the information that you have is going to the baby. And this is the reason why the sisters, we really have to make sure that when we're having intercourse with the man is that you know exactly who it is that you're sleeping with, because information is so important. He's putting his information, his germs, his genetic material inside of you. So if this man hates you, he has a problem with you, anger, whatever case like that might be, he's now putting negative energy inside of you. And when the scripture says in those days, mistress women should bring forth monsters, we're going to have to ask ourselves, is there an underlining or a bigger definition with that? Because she's a Nekwabah or Nekiba, she's a receiver. And even during the whole pregnancy, we want to make sure that we don't aggravate or have any problems with our Yashra'al. We want to make sure that we stay in good connection with them, because we always want her to be in the right state of mind. And they even say that you can actually, a woman can actually program a child, you know, through reading, playing music, and things like that, because the baby is always, he hears everything. Yeah, they said that the baby even cries inside of the womb. And I just found that real amazing. We can talk about that later. All right, so I just wanted to share is that I never want any woman to think that, you know what, when we keep saying that the man begots, he begots, and oh, she just conceives. Nah, that's not what I'm saying at all. her birthing and her connection to us is very, very important.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions with the maps or anything? Yes.
My question would be, wouldn't the scriptures would have Ruth been an Israelite and in the plain of Moab? Wouldn't the scriptures have rather said that they went to the land of Reuben, opposed to saying they went to the country of Moab? If she was an Israelite, because I think it would have, like, instead of saying referencing as a old Moab land, they would have said she went to the land of Reuben instead.
Right, exactly. And what's interesting about this thing here now is that this is very important. After the death of Moses, Joshua is now on the scene, and the lands are now allotted. They are now allotted Israelite encampments. So yes, tribal allocations and Israelite encampments. Once Israel or Reuben takes over this land here, they fully take over that land, you will never see this word again anymore. Avaroth Moab. You will never see it anymore. Because Reuben now, is in control of that land. But prior to them now taking that land, yes, it was called the plain of Moab. It was. I mean, you're now, there were tenants, let's say, in your house before you got there. All right, so until you sign the lease and all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, the person who used to own that property, they no longer own it now. You now call it, that's your house.
Right.
You know, but when you're going through the steps, you put the down payment down, the house is not yours. I mean, just trying to play the house is never yours, but I'm just saying that, you know what, the down payment, the signatures, the bank loans, and all that stuff like that, until you actually go to the signing and everything like that, the house still belongs to the bank or whoever. So that's what we have. We have our teacher. She used to teach back in the day. So you have anything for us?
Oh. Ruth is from the land of Sedai. Am I saying that word right? Sedai?
Yes, yes.
Below the land of, below the river. Her husband and her birth of her two male sons were in the land of Moab, which means when the scripture says that she went back to the land of Moab, she went below the river back to her homeland, where Boaz lived.
Right. My argument is that there was a famine in the land.
In the land where she lived at, where her husband and her sons died.
And in Bethlehem, Judah, in the house of bread, there was a famine there, and they left there and they went to the plains, or they went to Sadeh, Moab, and not Avaroth, Moab.
Because they had to pass through the land of Moriah.
Actually, the actual route I have not found anywhere in Scripture, but it just says in Ruth, the first chapter, is that once they left the house of bread, is that they were actually below the Arnon River, and that they was in Sadeh, Moab, or Moab, as it states here. That's just
okay. Let me get this straight. They would just repeat what you said. Right.
Is that there was a famine in the land.
Right.
And Elimelech, his wife,
right,
and the two sons, they went below the Arnon River.
Okay.
They didn't go to the plains of Moab. They went to the, it tells us here, I think it said the country. And we've got
because in Ruth 1, it talks about the country. And understanding what the country is different from in 2 and 6. If I understood the lesson. And the land, the country, is where she's from, is Sudan.
right. S-A-D-E-H, right.
Sedan.
Right.
Sedan.
Sedan.
Yes.
Sedan.
Right. Because context, because you're going to find the word field and land, but on your own time, there's going to be another word you can look at too. It's going to give you the definition for the word plains of Moab, and it's going to give you the word savannah. You can look that up on your leisure. And what this says now, the word savannah, in the definition, it gives us a definition of a steep. I think it's spelled it E-P-E, a steep. And it says it was a steep, and it was dividing the land between the forest and the the open vineyard of the plain. So that word savannah is also attached to the word Moab. But again, after Israel or Reuben took the land for good, that it was no longer called Amaroth or Amarah Moab anymore, because it was one of the cities of refuge. And that's what I have. All right. Everybody is told. Everybody is good. So, are there any questions? We're going to have some updates on Pesach, because today is the 24th, and we're winding down. And we're going to get some. Yeah, let it go. Just in case if anybody wants 10 services. Okay, we have Hoti Parad and Shia to give us the updates.
The only update is, still want to make sure about March 6th you have your funds in before, but no later than March 6th. If you can get them in as soon as possible, we would appreciate it. We can quickly wrap up, securing the place, and moving forward with that. That's the only update I have now. If there's any updates, I will send them to the e-fight, so everyone get them as a group. If you have not reserved, the seating is going very fast. Please reserve, at least so we know you have your seat there, and you'll be counted.
Yeah, everything is going well.
Right.
Everything's already set. It's just a matter of everybody signing up and getting your funds in. Even if you don't have the whole amount right now, like she said, because seats are going fast, put $10 here and there or whatever.
Right.
That way you have a seat. Because the feeling I have as the same thing that happened last year, at the 11th hour, everybody is going to try to get a seat, and it may or may not be anything available, and it won't be anything we'll be able to do for you, because Yahuah told you it was coming. So, I would suggest that. A couple of people have put, something down just to say, hey, I am coming.
Right.
If that's what you need to do, you guys do that. But I have a feeling that out-of-town people are going to decide it, the last minute, and we're going to be swamped by then. Trying to secure seats.
And the menu is all the same and everything?
Is it? Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
So we may have an extra treat or two, but I'm not going to spill it.
Okay, all right.
So just keep in mind, we are tracking everything through e-bite. So please don't show up and you're not on the guest list, because we do not want to turn you away, but we won't have to, because the limit is 100. We have to stick with that limit. So if you know some folks that want to come with you, put them in your total.
Yeah, and honestly, guys, it will not be anything we can do, because the venue where we're having this at, they are so tight about everything. And I'll go over the rules a little bit later, but just, off the top, no loitering outside, no smoking on the side of their buildings, no going into rooms that we have not secured for payment. I mean, we have our area, we have to stay there. They are very tight, and if we don't adhere to that, they will ask us to leave, and that would forfeit the entire Pesach. So we're gonna have to be professional and on point.
Right.
So, you're not gonna have that luxury